Last time, we built a train depot with attached train factory to make train casings and tracks. And now, we're building a new factory in the form of a forge, which won't actually be forging anything other than bricks, but it's a thought that counts. But yes, welcome back everybody. No major changes to our train yard since last time, with the small exception of adding a little path next to our entrance for our factory stuff. And to be fair, I did actually build this last time, I just forgot to show it. And in today's episode, we're working on a brick factory. It's going to look more like a forge more than anything else, but that's what I wanted to build. And that's going to be roughly behind where I am at the moment, next to our copper and zinc factory. And so the first thing I'm going to do is flatten out some of this land to prep it for a new building. And there we go, there is our bit of flat land. I did raise it up ever so slightly compared to our copper and zinc factory because I want it to kind of slowly rise up towards the end of the road here. I think we're going to start off with the actual door frame for this building, which might be a slightly weird thing to start with, but I want the front of this to kind of look like a furnace of sorts, or at least the door frame I want to look like a furnace. I want something about that size, and I'm going to wrap it around with some of this grey loco metal. Then one block back, use some of our grey brass wrapped loco metal. We can make this look a bit more interesting by throwing in some of our yellow loco metal on the sides here. And then just so this doesn't look too flat of a design, I'm going to throw in some of our copycat blocks here to add a little bit more depth. And as you could probably tell, I've maybe become slightly obsessed with using copycat blocks again, especially ever since I got more access to zinc. I'm also going to use some of these girder struts just to add a few kind of slopes to this design. I think I'll do that on the edges here as well. Change the angle of this a little bit so that I can do that. And there we go. I think that's where I want all the girders. End up adding a little bit of a trim of Dean bricks so we can actually attach those. I think I'm actually going to throw down some more of these Dean bricks to get an idea of exactly how large this building is going to be. I think something of that size is going to be what I want. But I do want some kind of lava features coming down from the side here. So we're going to throw down some more of our grey / loco metal. And use some of these pillar trims again that we used for our glowstone factory, but in deep slate. And after digging a little bit of a hole, we can go grab some lava. Then we can throw our lava into here to have that stream down. I think I'm going to use a radiator fan from Steam and Rails just to add a bit of movement as well. And then just go repeat that on the other side. And now I think I want to figure out where the roof line is going to be. We can use some of this polished deep slate. Help us figure that out. We can have that kind of roof line, but with some additional copycat steps and such to add a bit of a lip to it. And I do want to add a bit of a slanted bit of roof here. So I'm going to use some of this brown brass wrapped loco metal with some slopes, some of this flat brown loco metal as well for the actual roof bits itself, and then add a little bit of a trim as well. And I'm liking how that's looking so far. But this does look a bit plain at spots, so I think we're going to use our brass girder struts again for these corners. I'm going to actually break through this wall a little bit and place down some copycat slabs. Unfortunately, the preview isn't showing up anymore since I updated one of my mods. I'm not sure which one. But then we can put some panels in front of this and then some brass windows. And that helps fill up that gap. I think I'll place down some girders here and repeat it on the other side too. And there we go, I even added some additional fans in the center there as well, with some of them turned off, just so they don't look all exactly the same. And now as for each side here, I think I want to add some form of tanks. We're going to make use of our andesite scaffolding here, the base, with some loco metal on top. And use some of these vertical slopes for the actual angle so it looks a little bit more rounded. Obviously fill that in with the rest of our loco metal. And out of the top, continue this up and hook it up to the building, and then just use some normal copycat slopes to slope it upwards. And then just so this doesn't look like it's kind of just balancing there, place some girders down and bring that towards the ground. And there we go, there is our two tanks after I mirrored it on the other side. Now I think I'm going to work on the sides of the building, which is going to be using quite a lot of brick. And as we're not going to have any windows on this, it's pretty much just going to be a very big wall, but I am going to break it up with some of our local metals, as well as a ton of girder struts, which we're just going to pretty much snake all the way up the top in pretty much this fashion. And we can just keep repeating that design all the way to the end here. After that, I think we're going to add some girders going across here with some chains heading upwards. It's going to actually wrap around our deep slate around the sides here and have these hanging down from that deep slate. Then with that designed, I also replicated it on the other side of the building here with the help of our schematic cannon. I'm going to start placing in our massive brick wall back here as well, because my hope back here is to actually add some massive pipes kind of coming out the back of the building and down below. Because I haven't really mentioned it before, but I do eventually want to add a little bit of a cliff face behind all our buildings here and then extend our waterway all the way down, kind of where there is meant to be a riverbed here, but Minecraft terrain generation kind of didn't successfully do it. I'm going to start with some of the supporting structure to begin with, including pulling out some of our girders and attach them with some chains to the ground and deep slate above. Now I do think the pipes are going to be quite large coming into this, just so it fills up most of the wall. So we will get a general outline, I think, of what I want for this pipe. And actually what I may do here is make this actually one more wider because of how big I want this pipe to be, and replace the structures that I did before with some brass wrapped ones instead, so that it stands out from the pipes themselves. We can then continue our pipe outwards with our grey / local metal. And then I want to use our brown, the actual pipe itself. I'm going to bring that out by a few blocks so that we get enough clearance from any kind of cliff that I build down here later on. And then we can start tilting this down by one until we're left with something along these lines. And then I can then continue this straight down. And then we can use some of our metal girders to surround this a little bit. And also use girder struts to attach these around. And we can do that down the entire shaft of the pipe for a little bit of structure. And there we go, there is our more or less finished pipes, and I'll be sorting out the bottom of these obviously once the cliffs and water are put in. The only thing really left now for the exterior of this building is the roof, which itself is going to be quite basic, but I'm going to put a couple of things on top. So let's very quickly bang out our roof that we're going to build on top. And the very first thing I want to build on top is a massive chimney. At least that's what I'm calling it. I'm not sure if you could really count it as that, but that's what I'm doing anyway. And of course we are mostly using our brown / local metal for this. We are going to kind of slowly taper it out a little bit as we head upwards. And I think it'd be something like that shape, but all the way around. And then use some of our brass wrapped local metal to act as a top layer. And that's looking pretty good so far. I think I want to bring down some of this brass to meet up with some girders, including some of our slanted ones. So it looks like it's held up a bit. You can kind of just do that all the way around. And then honestly, just because I like these fans so much, I'm going to throw some of these in as well behind our girders, making sure to stop some of them. Then I think I want to borrow from myself with our big old crucible over at the copper and zinc factory and grab some magma blocks and put some campfires underneath too for that extra kind of fire looking effect. And I actually need to go get some of those magma blocks so we can use our new nether portal, which I still really like. Hopefully it didn't break in the process. It sure didn't. Grab some of this real quick and not try to get burnt by the lava. A couple of stacks should do for now. Make sure to close our portal afterwards. Very nice, very nice. I do enjoy that portal. And then we can just spam our magma blocks in. Throw our campfires underneath for good measure. And there we go, there is our smoke effect. As for the other roof features, I think I want to build a crane here. I'm not going to overly complicate this thing or make it look extra fancy. Kind of just want something coming off the roof that kind of breaks up the symmetry of the building a little bit. As much as I love symmetry, sometimes breaking it looks better. Go out about that far. And I think with the girder struts themselves, we can actually go straight through this block, which I think actually looks a bit better, because if we did it the kind of normal way, where we do it from each side of the block, it's not as good. So the other method definitely works better. And I think I'm going to use a little bit of trickery here, bring out some of the locometal so we can connect our girder to it, but then remove the girder and use our chain to come down from that to another bit of locometal. And then because this is meant to be a brick factory of sorts, I am just going to place a bunch of them underneath this and then use our copycat panels on the bottom and the sides to make it seem like it's moving some bricks around. And the last two things I think I want to do on this roof are just a small bit of lighting here. Use some of this double inlaid glowstone and some structure. Make sure to do that on both sides. And then on this side, I want to do another kind of chimney thing, but there's lava going through it. So I'm going to be making use of brown brass wrapped locometal again, some breaks of some grey locometal, and we're going to have something about that high. Throw in some glass in between so we can actually see our lava moving downwards. I'm going to, of course, use our trusty copycats again to go up the sides, and then finish this up with some girders on the outside, probably only going up to the second floor, I think. And then finish this off with some red industrial cage lamps, making sure to turn them on. Throw in our lava, and that's kind of streaming down. It kind of makes it look like a constant stream between the top chimney down to the lava fall behind me. Whether that makes any sense in real life or not is a whole nother story, but I like how it looks anyway. And I think in terms of the actual exterior of the building itself, I think we're in a pretty good position here. I think what I'll do is I'll landscape the outside of this a little bit, so it's not just plain grass, and then we can start actually working on the inside. And there we go, there is our landscaping done. I did lower the path next to our road here down to the same level, as well as added some of our coaster, packed mud, etc. Connected up our lava streams to a point, and I filled in the inside with a bunch of this border tuff. Now my plan for the inside first is to actually make a little furnace here. I've gone ahead and made a big old pit here real quick. I put our belt in with some fans underneath, and I'm just going to place some lava on those, as well as some dirt just to kind of hold that all in. And that will be the actual system that cooks all our clay into bricks. And now, as this is going to be inside a bit of a furnace, I'm going to place down some campfires to act as the bit of smoke coming out from the lava. And then we can also add our lava on top of this. That's the base of that done. And then I'm going to use some of our colored locometal here, because I kind of want to emulate the effect of the heat coming off the lava going up the metal. So we're going to have our yellow, followed by our orange / locometal, our red on top of that, and then I think going one block inwards, we can also surround the top of our furnace. And I think that looks pretty cool. I think that shows off how the heat is going up the metal quite well. And then we can just use some of our /grey locometal just to kind of wrap around the colored locometal. And then finish off that design with some of our copycat blocks acting as a bit of a trim, and add some girders on the side, just because I feel like that helps actually make it look more like a furnace. And that's more or less what I wanted for the design. I think the one thing I will actually do though is probably drag this lava out to the front here a little bit, just so that it helps light up the area a bit and means there's a bit less monotonous stone. There we go, I'm liking how that is looking. And the idea as well is that once the clay is moving down our belt here, we're going to have some kind of form of underground storage which we can then pull out from for our actual brick making. Now I think the next thing I want to do here is actually get our clay made and sorted. So we need to import from our warehouse all of our sand and bring it out here to be processed. So I'm actually going to throw down some girders all the way along here to bring our sand from the road to where we want it to be. And my idea was to kind of have this raised bit of belt that will go along these metal girders to some kind of processing facility that I'm probably actually just going to embed into this wall behind here. And actually, let's figure out where this processing bit is going to be. Like I said, I do kind of want to embed it into the wall, and I might make it almost like a little bit of a water pool here that's on the outside. I think actually we're gonna probably break some of our girders here and go straight through the wall, looking something like that, with perhaps placing our girders back here at the top and a little bit of support for this so it doesn't look like it's floating too much. I'm going to then keep this design more or less on the inside as well, and also have some girders in here to hold the thing up. Now if we hook up the rest of our girders here and hook up some form of belt line that goes all the way along here, and then also a belt going towards our kind of processing stuff. And I've gone ahead and added some industrial metal to the bottom of this belt here, and then I'm just going to also hook up the actual belt so that it looks like it's connected to the girders on the side rather than just looking a bit weird and floaty. Now for the actual processing of the sand to clay itself, I'm going to place down probably about 3 of these fans, or rather 6 for that matter. And actually I do need to lower this down by 1 because I need to fit the water above it. There's our water in. We can then extend our belts out, throw down a bolt, and then add our 2 brass funnels. Now I do need to make sure I add some brass tunnels so that we can have 2 lines of clay for quicker processing. And then down further here, I'm gonna place down an item vault with some packages on each side. Because I think the idea I want to do with this is have this specific vault actually ask for sand so that we always have a little bit of a local storage for it. And then when we need to make bricks on the fly, it can just pull straight out from the sand rather than asking our warehouse. So what I'm going to do is quickly set up a train station here so that we can bring our sand over and start getting this working. And now I've placed a restocker on our packager here for this vault. As you can see, there's already some sand in there. And our address is SW05, so storage warehouse 05, which is the exporting truck, and then Forge A. So then when our yellow truck comes by, it will drop off anything in this post box with Forge A at the end, and then with the wildcard, anything before that can appear. So that's nice and simple. And then underground here, I want to add some form of storage. So we want some chutes coming out from our belt, and then we can just place a small little vault down here to hold on to all of our bricks. And then place a package on here and connect this dot link, I think, the one that we have over here, which I can then use the factory gauges for to place our sand in here and our bricks in the other one. Add our connection, and because to actually make our clay, we need about 4 sand, because there's only a 25% chance of getting a clay ball. So we actually need to put 4 sand to 1 brick. And the address doesn't matter, so I'm literally just going to put in bricks for the sake of it. And then whenever it comes out of our packager here, I'm going to remove some belt and actually just place down a mechanical saw. You can throw in some cogs to have that saw move. And the idea about that is that it will just break the package into the sand that we need rather than having to unpack it. So hopefully if I ask for, let's say 10 of these, sand gets pulled out of there, gets cut up, brought over here where it is washed, and then if we're lucky, it will turn into a clay ball, go into this vault. And now all I need to do is hook up our clay washer to our furnace. And there we go. I ended up hooking up the belt underneath just to keep the area above here pretty clean, and also slow down the belt so that when it's moving through the furnace, the clay doesn't go too quickly. And our factory gauge was kind of successful, but I am going to do an expiry of probably like about 10 minutes. Because like I said, there's only about a 25% chance of getting clay from sand. So there's always a possibility that it doesn't send enough. In fact, I should probably also switch this up to like 40 and this to about 10, just so there isn't too many packages going at once. And that's more or less the clay to brick setup that I wanted. Now I've just got to actually make all the actual bricks that I want. And most of those are from the Create Deco mod, which are things like Dean bricks, verdant bricks, blue bricks, etc. And of course, we are making some Viridium and Azurine in our copper and zinc factory over here. And our dusk bricks require Scorchia, and our umber bricks require Scoria, which I also need to make. And we can start with the Scoria and Scorchia using a very similar system as I've done behind me, as they are made from soul sand, which is obviously made from sand itself. So I'm going to quickly replicate what I did on the other side with our girders and such. And then with all that bit hooked up, we can then actually start making our Scoria and stuff. First thing we need to do is actually place some of our soul campfires underneath our belt here, with some fans going into it. I'm going to need some barrels that we can hook our brass funnels in and put the filters in for the Scoria. Then I'm going to do something similar back here with 2 more barrels, 2 more brass funnels, put our Scoria into here. And underneath this, we're going to need to place our fans and lava down. And then we also then need to take out any items that come into here so we can turn it into Scoria. And I'm just going to place some blocks around these just to keep it all nice and encased. And then on the other side over here, I need to place some chutes down, actually remove these belts so that we can hook up to the barrels. I'm going to bring these down all the way to the floor so that we can place another belt line down here with some more barrels. And underneath just one of these, I want to place a fan and some black dye, as that is the quickest way to actually turn our Scoria into Scorchia. And then when we place some funnels down, we can just make one have the need for Scorchia, and then the other one can just go straight into this barrel. And that's more or less the gist for the Scoria and Scorchia. I now need to put a belt outside to some kind of storage out here, which is going to be useful a little bit later. And then with all our power and stuff hooked up, including our stock links, we can now set up a basic factory gauge, 1 for sand, and 1 for Scoria. Now I know this effectively has 2 outputs, so I'm going to kind of trick the system by telling it that it needs 2 sand per Scoria. So if we all put this all the way up to 64, we can make this about 32. And so whenever sand is sent down here and split into these 2, we'll get half of each. And hopefully that should work. So we're going to set this to 1 stack that gets pulled out of there, split directly into 2 to become soul sand, and then eventually our Scoria. And I realized I should have actually probably turned these into brass funnels. But as they go down, obviously some will get converted into Scorchia, and some others will just go straight through. And now this container is slowly getting some of each. And I was a little bit confused why this came out a bit wrong at first. As you can see, there's kind of 1896 in there, or 1812 now, because I threw in another stack of sand because I was confused as to why I had one less than the other. And I had forgotten to add something to the end of this brass tunnel here. And the sand was just being flung out into the distance. So at least I fixed that. It should prevent any problems in the future. And now that we actually have our Scoria and Scorchia, we can now actually start making the bricks associated with them. So we're going to need to make use of our mechanical crafters, making sure that these all kind of go off to the same spot. And then round the back, make sure that these are all connected up as well. And then I'm going to place down another shipping container here for the sake of storage, as well as place down a packager with a chute underneath and a post box for if we want to send it back to our warehouse. What I essentially need to do is pull out items from our shipping container here, for the scoria or the scorchia, as well as the bricks that are underneath here. So I need to set up a proper conveyor system for that. Now that I have hooked this belt up to our storage above, I now need to, one, pull from our shipping container here, but also two, I need to place down a barrel and a repackager here, because it needs to grab the items both from the container behind me and the brick one, and then merge them together in one package. So that's what this is for. And I don't know if this will actually work, but we're gonna give it a try. See if it rolls straight into this barrel. Now, hopefully we'll be able to place down a few more of our stock links here so that this one can track our bricks, this one can do our umber bricks, and we can connect those to this, hit use mechanical crafting, and then I'm gonna send this to crafter B, and then also make a package filter which also has crafter B in it, and place it on our brass tunnel here to make sure that it only goes in this direction. And then with the lever turned on for the repackager, I'm just going to ask for 4. And we can see what happens here. Got a package come out of there and into here for the one scoria, so I'm glad the drain works. And in theory, we should see another package come from underneath. Although I'm suddenly realizing I've made this brass tunnel wrong. They're not actually connected. One moment. Okay, this is quite literally the most inefficient way of doing this, but I couldn't be bothered to move all the belts. So let's grab our packager again and just throw that down, or not, because it's not going to fit. If I just nudge it down, you're gonna fall on the belt? No, okay. Let's just ask for a new package. Let's reset our promise items, including the one that's in here as well. And there's the box, goes into repackager, goes into our crafter, which I actually need to power quickly. And just to make sure that it knows that it's done, we can place our stock link here, and there we go. 4 out of 4. Now for this other item to monitor, we can do Scorchia, place down another factory gauge, put in our dusk bricks, do the same thing where we connect them up, and hit mechanical crafter. Once again, do crafter B for the address. And then if I ask for 4 of those, we get our Scorchia here. Our bricks come through. That crafts away. And now we also have 4 dusk bricks. Perfect. I think I want to actually add some copycat stuff around this. And I think that helps that look a little bit more polished. And now I need to more or less repeat this design behind me over here, because I want to do the same thing but with our azurine and viridium. But before we do that, I did add some crafting recipes to make ochrum and crimsite from gold nuggets and iron nuggets respectively. But I need a place to actually make them. And kind of inspired by my own design from my copper and zinc farm, I want to build something very similar next to our forge here by flattening out some of this land and quickly canning in a design I came up with. Mostly because this video is getting kind of long. In fact, actually, I'm already done. I've cannoned in these kind of 3 crucibles filled with some molten blocks with a pipe coming out of the actual forge to make it seem like it's placing it into the crucibles, and added our mixture of dirts and muds and stuff for the ground as well. And so now underneath here, I'm going to make like the world's tiniest little cobblestone gen with the help of a mechanical drill. And I'm just going to put a millstone directly below it. Hopefully that works. We can put our water into our drill to waterlog it, and lava there, although I should have put the cobblestone down first, so oops. Now I've placed our lava behind here. That will make our cobblestone. We have our millstone below that, which we can hopefully just pull directly out of. Place 2 basins with some mixers on top, and actually let me offset these slightly so that items can go into them. Anything that comes out of those 2 will come down the belt here and up to our storage container over here. And now we just got to bring our gold and iron over here. Now I think I'll make this quite simple and place a belt line in the ground here. Bring that to the inside of our crucible here. This absolute mess of belts down here can split this into gold and iron to go into their respective basins. And then with the help of our fluid transmitter, use a mechanical pump coming out of that and pipe in our lava to our 2 basins. Now I just got to hook up some power. And that's probably my worst ever crate contraption that I've ever made. But it's hidden away and I'm just going to pretend it's not here anymore. Although I do still need to actually set the gold and iron there, but that won't take me too long. And actually now what I can do is set up 2 more blocks down here and 2 here. Set one of these to Ochrum, set up some more factory gauges to these stock links so that I can place them up here for our gold nuggets and our iron nuggets. Add our connection between the gold and the ochrum. Then I need to throw crimsite into this one, do the same thing with our iron up here. As for our addresses, we're going to need to do SW05 and forge gold iron for both of these. Set up our scarlet block and Dean brick to go in here, which we can then pull from their respective gauges, including our bricks. Make sure these use mechanical crafting and set them to crafter B. Tell this to always hold on to, let's say, a stack of each. So now in here, we start seeing the iron and gold nuggets, although I did only do it one at a time, so maybe I should fix that real quick. Okay, yeah, now it's 64 to 64, so we won't be sending so many parcels. And then if I also ask for just 4 of these 2 for now. And now our crimsite and stuff is being made in here, going underneath to this shipping container, which it sure is, and it has already actually made our Dean bricks and scarlet bricks, so they should be in this one. Now with all that side done in terms of bricks and stuff, I've just got to finish off with this side. And now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, because it's more or less the same thing. I'll bring you back at the end. And sometime later we are now done with this project. I set up our blue bricks and verdant bricks from our Viridium and Azurine, and also worked on the interior of this place, adding some lava underneath this grating, some more lava walls on the sides, plenty of girders around as you can see. And then inside of the pipes I ended up adding these fans instead, as there was a little bit of room behind the walls. Yeah, overall, I am pretty proud about this. I'm calling it a forge, even if it's more like a brick factory. But the design came out rather nice, if I do say so myself. I did forget one brick type, which are the white pearl bricks, because they're made out of limestone, and I just kind of forgot about them. So I'll have to add that to the system at some later point, as well as work on all the landscaping I still would need to do back here to especially hide all the stuff that's underneath this factory. But unfortunately, I'm very much out of time this week. I've had a rather busy week in real life and then had a bunch of recording problems as well. So sorry if the end felt a little bit rushed. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.